Let's get started.
All right, good evening. I can't speak, everybody, and welcome to the Bonus Stage Podcast, episode number 27. As always, I'm your host, Lloyd Hannison, and joining me this week, as always, Jeff Ward. Jeff, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really, really good. How about you?
I'm doing good too. My little guy turned 7 today. It's just unbelievable. And I say that because I know a lot of our listeners are people that have listened to my podcast since before I had kids. So they've been listening to me for 8 or 9 years, which is just absolutely asinine. But he turned 7, took the day off work, and I scared him. I surprised him. I did scare him, but I also surprised him at school.
You're 7 now. Time to be a man.
Yeah.
Let me, scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, I threw him into the pool, which is covered in ice because we're in Winnipeg. It was great.
Let him drive by himself.
Yeah. No, gave him a cigar. No. I surprised him at school.
He's 7, not 17, Lloyd.
That's right. I surprised him at school, and we did a bunch of fun things. Went and spent the day together, and had a good time. So yeah, it's been a really good day. Been a good week.
And for me, my children, the Toronto Blue Jays, won tonight, so obviously I am happy as well.
Oh, they get dessert tonight.
They do. We're going out for pizza.
That's awesome.
I'll meet you in Kansas City in 12 hours.
Awesome. Cool. So anything else to add? Anything else new with you before we get into the show?
No, not a whole lot. It's been a pretty generic week. I think the big thing is that I've been able to play a lot of the video games that I purchased last week, many of which I'll talk about tonight. Without saying too much, because I'm going to review it later on the show, and I know everybody's really excited for me to talk about baseball, because I know that I believe predominantly 85% of the audience of the bonus stage are also rabid baseball fans, and of that 85%, all of them are rabid Blue Jays fans. So that's why I always keep you guys up to date, so that you know what's going on with the team, just in case you couldn't watch tonight. But as you all know, last week I picked up MLB 13, the show, the sequel to the greatest game ever made, MLB 12, the show. I got it on the PS3 and the Vita. I'm going to review the Vita version tonight, and then probably next week, when I've had more time with the PS3 version, I'll talk about the differences and kind of break that down a little bit. If you're looking for the spoiler part of the review, it's awesome. A few things that are weird in the change from 12 to 13, but I'll talk about that later. But that's taken up a big part of my week. I've been playing it on the Vita a ton because I can watch baseball and play baseball at the same time. And the Vita is a really great machine if you can't be near a console. As a portable device, it's really strong. You just need a game that you get addicted to, And for me, if I don't have MLB The Show on the Vita is basically a wash for me. I could get rid of it at any time and not feel bad about it.
Right.
This is, speaks volumes to that game. It's that game that keeps me owning this device, which is, such a friggin' $35 game is the only reason I own a $300 handheld. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The other game I picked up last week is Tomb Raider on the 360. I've played, maybe a little bit less than halfway through the game, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. I can't remember, Lloyd, did you review this game?
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go back and listen to that, because I can't remember what you thought of it. I know that you really enjoyed the game, but there's some weird things in this game that I'm not sure if I think I'm not quite sure what I think about them yet. I think I need time to let it ruminate. So I'll probably get to that next week as well too, and just kind of do my part of the review. I'll go back and listen to the episode where you reviewed it, so I don't talk over any of the things that you already mentioned.
Right.
And the last thing that I've been playing this week is I'm playing a lot of Black Ops 2. The network issues have seemed to kind of round themselves out a little bit. There was a big patch that came out this week. In the patch notes, I didn't notice anything that spoke to the networking, but sometimes they leave things out because they don't want people to know that they've tried to tinker with it. But a lot of minor kind of things, hard point areas that have been extended to make the game a little bit more balanced. But the big thing is that started today and will go until Monday is double XP. Because on Tuesday, the new map pack comes out. So what the hell is it called? Uprising, I think. It looks pretty cool. There's a new zombies map. It's called Mob of the Dead. And it has 4 celebrities in it. Ray Liotta, Joe Pantoliano, Michael Madsen, and the guy who's always interviewing Verbal Kint from Usual Suspects. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the same guy who voices Fat Tony, I think. No, he's not. That's Joe Montana. They look very similar, though. Anyway, they're in Alcatraz. They've got a bunch of new weapons, a bunch of new traps. It looks really, really cool. So I've been playing a lot of Black Ops so that I can, get to my next prestige. And when the game works, network-wise, it's really fun. It is really fun. There are a few weapons that are just mind-bogglingly just annoying. But if you can get past that, it's actually a really enjoyable game. I haven't been yelling at the TV very much, which is a good sign that I'm enjoying my time with it.
Nice.
So, that's been my week.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll get into what I've been playing. Been still going at Luigi's Mansion a little bit. Not as much as I'd like. I've been playing some other stuff. I picked up a new game on the Vita. It's a cross-buy PSN title that's also available on the PS3 called Guacamelee. And it's a really awesome 2D action-adventure platformer kind of game that is Metroidvania. So it's basically you can only go to certain areas until you get more powers. Once you get those powers, it unlocks other areas, et cetera, et cetera. So it's similar to like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, those types of games. I picked it up and it's it's great. I'm about halfway through it, I guess. When I look at the stat screen, it gives you kind of a percentage of completion, and it's a really great game. It has a really awesome art style. It's like a luchador kind of styled thing. So you're a guy with a luchador mask. You are a luchador, and you're basically in the game right around the Day of the Dead or whatever that celebration is, and what is it, Dia de los Mortes or something, or Morte. I can't speak Spanish, so my pronunciation is obviously really off. But and basically what happens is there's this demon that wants to unite the world of the dead and the world of the living, and that's the game. But as I said, it's a Metroidvania title, so you get new powers to get to new areas. But the powers that you get are actually like wrestling moves, which is really awesome. So you learn to do like this, like a dragon uppercut, and you do headbutts, you do all these other really awesome things. And it's the game itself, as I said, the art style is amazing, but it has so many nods to like old gaming stuff. So everywhere you're going in the town, there's posters up on the walls, and they're all like stylized kind of Spanish kind of luchador match posters. So you'll have like what is it, Los Hermanos Plumbing or whatever it is, and it's like a cartoon or characterized version of like Mario and Luigi that are fighting each other.
Nice.
There's one that has like what is it, what's the gaming site that has the robot as a mascot? I can't even think of it right now. Destructoid. So it has El Destructo versus El Bombo. So it's like Destructoid versus Giant Bomb, and has all these things. There's posters of like Zelda. There's when you get new powers, you actually break the Chobo statues from Metroid or whatever they were called, something around Chobo or whatever. So those little like birdie things that are holding like an orb in their hand. You break them, and that's how you get your new powers. There's a sequence where you're being chased by this big beast, and the way you kill it is at the end of this one level that you're running through, there is a big golden axe, and you touch the axe, and then the floor kind of peels away, and then he falls into lava, just like when you're fighting Bowser. There's all sorts of really awesome nods to old games on Nintendo, other consoles as well. It is just a really awesome title. It's as I said, it's cross-buy, so it's available on both the Vita and the PSN with one purchase. It's $15 new or regular price. If you have PlayStation Plus, I believe they knock $3 off that price. I think I paid $12 for it. And it is
good deal.
It is an awesome game. I haven't played it on the PS3. I've pretty much been experiencing it solely on my Vita, but
good to have a game to play on that thing, though, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's good not just to have the little blue light blinking at me when I'm sleeping, because I have it on my side table is where I charge it, and it's just like that's all I've done is kind of looked at the blinking light these last little whiles. So,
I think one of the greatest things you can say about the Vita is that its sleep time battery life is amazing, because you'll notice that you'll just have it sitting out for weeks and you haven't touched it, and then you'll turn it on and hey, it's got a full battery. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I leave it on the charger. I have one of those. I bought one of the charging docks, so I just have it docked right beside my bed. Nice. And yeah, but I don't play it much, so it's kind of like I don't know, it hasn't served me well as a console, but I am really digging playing this game. So Guacamelee by Drinkbox Studios, really awesome title. I'm kind of surprised it didn't come out on like a Nintendo platform, because it seems very Nintendo focused, but I guess they were given a stack of money from PlayStation. It's the same company that did Mutant Blob's Attack on the PSN as well. So it's great. I love it. And do check it out. Not a full review because I haven't beaten it yet, but I'm getting close. Let me see if I can pull up the stats right now. I don't think I can, because I'm in the middle of a battle right here. No, I can only see the area that I'm in, and I'm only 25% through the area that I'm in.
It's a great looking game too. Like 51%. I've seen videos and stuff, and the art style is just awesome. Yeah,
it's like you're luchador, and you have a mask, and you do.
I said in the chat room, I don't know if you saw. I said, do you play as Killbane? I don't know. I don't know if I told this. I finally beat Saints Row the Third last week.
Nice.
Finally beat that, and then I got rid of it right away. That's one of the weirdest endings to a video game I've ever seen in my life. I was kind of pissed off, but I'm like, you know what? This is the kind of game it is, where it's like, I don't give a shit if you like it or not. This is just how we're going to do it, you know?
Yeah. Well,
such a strange ending.
When one of their promotions is a big 12-foot purple dildo, you gotta think. You gotta like suspend your disbelief at some of the things in the game.
Yeah.
We'll just we'll leave it there. All right, well, I guess that's it for me. Let's get into the rest of the show. New releases this week. I saw Jeff put them in. The first one that he put on the list is The Simpsons Tapped Out got a huge update this week.
Yeah.
The Whacking Day update. So it's a free update. You install it, and they've basically made Whacking Day in The Simpsons Tapped Out. So every day you get X number every X number of hours you get snakes that just appear in your city, and you can go and whack them, and you collect the dead snakes and use them you trade them for prizes, different buildings and characters and other things like that.
I haven't played it yet, but is it exactly like the zombies?
No, not really. It's similar, but not the same.
Because that got really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, you open your world and there's snakes running around, and then you tap them and they get squished, and they spit out either an egg or a dead snake body. The egg is something that you can go to a friend's city and then plant the eggs in areas, and then they can hatch the eggs and kill the snakes.
Cool.
Is kind of what it is. But yeah, it's a huge update. They added, I think there's what is it, Camp Lonely or whatever. There's like some like wooden fort is one of the ones. You unlock a Duff Stadium, and the Coliseum, like the other arena that they go to, which is like a domed arena for football or for, I guess, where they had boxing. And when you unlock that one, you unlock the boxer guy from Simpsons, whose name is escaping me right now.
Drederick Tatum.
Yeah, that's right.
The Mike Tyson.
The Mike Tyson guy. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in it. I'm really digging it so far. But I think you have to kill 12,500 snakes to unlock the last item. So you're going to be killing a lot of snakes in The Simpsons. Is
it even mathematically possible by how many snakes they populate every? I mean, it's only a month for the update, right?
Yeah, but you get items that can produce more snakes if you want to pay donuts for them, or you do things with your things, like you go on a snake whack hunt, or you hatch snakes as Lisa, or you do other things, and you get awarded snakes for that quest. So it is possible.
I've seen people bashing this game on Twitter a lot because, basically people are saying, oh yeah, it is a great game by, it's EA, right? A great game by EA where they, you have to pay, you download it for free, but you have to pay to be good at it. And I'm like, I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah, you don't have to pay anything. Like
they don't force you to pay anything, and they do a really good job of making it just hard enough that you want to, but you're like, you know what? It's not that big of a pain in the ass.
But there really is nothing you gain from paying money for the items. All they do is they add other stuff to do and add other characters and maybe allow you to get money a little bit faster.
Yeah, you get,
and it's not even that much faster.
The only annoying one was Gil at Christmas time, who kept pestering you. I have this compulsion that if there's a red 1 on an app on my phone, or if there is a, in that game, if there's a friggin' exclamation mark above a character's head, I have to tap it because I want it to go away. But Gil's never would go away. Yeah. And it would drive me crazy because every time I tapped it, he's like, hey, you want to buy? And I'm like, no, Gil. I don't. Which is maybe the reason they put that in there, because he's the same character in the show as he is in the game. And it's a great game. I mean, I actually haven't played it since February. I downloaded the update and I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. I probably won't play it either, but it's never going to leave my phone because I can go back to it at any time and still really enjoy it. For a free game, I don't really think you can get a better licensed experience than this.
Yeah,
Granted, I haven't played a lot of games on the iOS, so
sure. No, I love The Simpsons, and this game just fits perfectly into that. I mean, it's so much fun going in and doing stupid things. I mean, it's no different than a Farmville, and I played Farmville and other Facebook games way back in the day, and it's fun to just play around and mess around in The Simpsons world. And killing snakes in this one is actually kind of satisfying, so it's good as well.
Yeah, there's some. There was actually quite a few games that came out this week, but I recognize none of them. Like a lot of these, there's a lot of PC games that come out.
There was really no console releases at all.
There was nothing. There
was some digital downloads, but really no like disc-based console releases at all this week. But PC.
Guacamelee. Oh no, disc-based. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
PC got Age of Empires 2 HD edition. Which if you're an Age of Empires fan and haven't gone back to that one, now it's HD. So there you go. Halo 4, that's probably the biggest release of the week, other than Guacamelee, was the Halo 4 map pack, which is the Castle map pack. I believe it's 800 points. Don't quote me on that because I haven't checked because I won't buy it. And then the only other one of note on the list was Clash of Elementalists, which I had written down there erroneously as the 3DS, and then I looked and I was shocked to see that people were still releasing games on the DS. And it is a DS game, so that is weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is really bizarre. Why would you do that?
I could have sworn that the DS wasn't getting new games anymore.
I mean, I've seen some new ones come out, but yeah, if it's a new game, what they'll do is they'll release a 3DS version and a DS version.
Yeah, and this is only DS. I went and checked just to make sure.
That's weird. Yeah, like Lego Batman 2 came out when the 3DS was already big, and it's the same game on the DS and the 3DS. Just the 3DS one looks a little bit better. Really kind of odd that they would do that, but yeah, I guess it's probably not a super popular game, so maybe there's like a little niche that they are trying to hit. So
yeah.
Cool.
You never know. But that's pretty much it. Next week will be more the same. I think there's a few releases coming out that I can't remember, and I know that the biggest one is going to be the Call of Duty map pack, which I'll mention and probably talk about briefly as I've been reading a ton about it. It looks cool, but again, I'll talk about it next week when it's Call of Duty week. People don't like to put releases out when Call of Duty's out. They just don't like to do it.
Well, makes sense.
The map packs are such a cash haul for that friggin' company, Activision. Damn you.
They need more money.
Say what you will about Activision, but try to find me a better run financial institute in gaming. I mean, they are so good at taking the money out of your pocket. It's unbelievable.
That is very true.
Yeah, buy stock in that company. Because they're in it for the long haul, man. They are in it for the long haul.
Oh, but so is EA, and look what happened to EA.
That's true, but it's still not a bad idea to have EA stock.
Oh, well, not if you were a stockholder when they were big.
That's true.
They've lost a lot of their market value.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyway, we're not recommending anybody buy stocks because we're not financial analysts. So please don't listen to us and make financial decisions based on our stupid blathering.
Yeah, go talk to Jim Cramer or Michael Pachter or something.
Sure.
Please do not buy stocks based on what I just said.
When the time when you said you should buy stocks?
Yes.
Okay. Just to be clear.
The time I said you should buy stocks, please don't go out and buy stocks. Just don't do it.
Exactly. Cool.
God.
All right, moving on. You have a review for us this week.
Yeah, if you want, we can take a break beforehand, or I can just go right into it. It doesn't matter to me.
It's up to you. You're the one that has to do the talking. So do you want to take a small break and then we'll get into it?
Yeah, let's take a small break and get into it.
Okay, we'll do a...
I know the people are going to need to prepare themselves for me to talk about baseball for a few minutes, so...
Yeah, so this is either a short break or a long break, depending on how you feel about baseball.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to pause it, walk away for 12 hours, and then come back.
Exactly, or start killing snakes on their iPad or iPhone. Cool, all right, so we're going to play one of our little chip tunes. We'll be back in a few minutes. Here we go. All right, so that was our little small music break. That was Forest Gnome Shindig, which is an interesting
Not sure
track.
how I feel about that.
Yeah, it was interesting. We'll say interesting. We'll leave it at interesting.
It started off bad, and then it got pretty good.
Yes, exactly. It was very simplistic, then it got better, and then it got more repetitive.
Which is actually, you know what? Right there, you just reviewed MLB 13, the show. That's exactly the review.
You used my joke.
You know what? I was going to take it from you before you used it against me.
Cool. All right, so you're going to be giving us a review of MLB The Show?
Yes.
Let me pass over control of the airwaves to you. I will even switch just to your camera so people can just stare at your face when you talk about baseball.
That's great.
I don't want my name underneath anything where this is being
just in case somebody tunes in accidentally, they'd be like, man, this is the most boring video game podcast I've ever seen. This guy just talked about baseball the entire night. He was by himself. MLB 13, the show. If you're a long-time listener of this show, you know that I'm a baseball nut and that I talked way too much about MLB 12, the show, last year. Had it for both the PS3 and the Vita. I have MLB 13, the show, for the same. And I'm going to be reviewing the Vita version here today because it's the one I've had the most amount of time with. Right off the bat, the game presents itself as essentially the same thing. Very, very little has changed in the way it looks. In fact, on the Vita version, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two, to be perfectly honest. I think that it is essentially the same game. It's just been reskinned with new players. The models of the players in the Vita version look a little uglier. Their animations are still really tight, and they look like Major League Baseball players. But when you get a shot of a player's face, they look weird, and not the good kind of weird. They look really strange. They look deformed, and they look like a lot of them look like their head has been chiseled out of a block of flesh and bone, and not chiseled very well, I might add. But other than that, the people in the stands are rendered a little bit better. They seem to have more variety. In MLB 12, the show, fan repetition was rampant. Depending on what ballpark you were playing at, I'm not sure if it's directly tied to that, but I noticed it more in the Rogers Center than I did in other places. There was quite a few times where I would be in the pitching view where the camera's behind the pitcher and it would be going towards the batting box, and all the people sitting behind home plate were exactly the same. And that was friggin' weird. And that's not what you want to see. They still have the problem of when you're playing the game and you foul a ball off on the third or first base line, there's nobody in the dugout. There's no managers, there's no pitching coaches, there's no players, they're just empty. They don't have that problem on the PS3, and I guess it's more of just a hardware issue where they just don't have the architecture or the power to produce those animations or those models in there, and it's really not that big of a deal. But it's kind of weird when you foul off a ball and it goes into your team's dugout and there's nobody there. Your team is so disinterested in the game that they're not even present for it.
Cue your jokes, everybody. This would be a good place.
That's a good time. Other than that, the game is essentially the same thing. A few small mechanics have been changed. The biggest notice that I've seen so far is when you call for or try to guess a certain pitch in a certain location, the game relays that information differently to you. The game is also a lot better at giving you a ton of metadata. So if you hit a double, the broadcasters unfortunately don't announce it. One of the shortcomings of this game is that the broadcasting and the play-by-play announcement isn't really all that great. They repeat a ton of stuff, and they often get facts completely wrong. A game I played a few days ago, Jose Bautista got the player of the game, and when they showed the player, they were on Adam Lind. And this box came around Adam Lind where they outlined him in a player card, and it said Jose Bautista, but it was clearly Adam Lind. So that was weird. And they often get facts wrong all the time. Sometimes they even call the game completely wrong. Like there was Edwin Encarnacion was up on at the plate, and it was like a 3-2 count, and they were saying like, oh, Jose Bautista is down 2 strikes to, or he's down 0-2. I'm like, what the hell kind of game are they watching here? So there's some weird discrepancies there. Nothing too big. Overall, the game is just really fun. If you like the other ones, you'll like this one. The only complaint that people had coming out of the gate was that the Diamond Dynasty mode was unplayable at the beginning, And that was because there was like a bug inside the game that allowed you to have unlimited money, which means you could buy any player at any time and have the most ridiculously stacked team imaginable. But they fixed that in a few days after launch. What else? So there's this interesting feature in the game where if you bought the game retail and bought it new instead of used, and you activate your online code, you can go into everybody's player stats, and if you toggle over all the way to the right, they have that player's Twitter feed if they're on Twitter, which is really strange. So you can see the real player's Twitter updates in the game. And that's actually one of the cool things about the way this game connects to the internet. If you want, you can have a ticker down at the bottom from MLB.com that will feed you live updates of games, which is always great. And yeah, for $30 or $35 or whatever I paid for it, really hard for me to try to spend that another way. When I went into the store last week, the two games I wanted to buy and was going to walk out of there with regardless was MLB 13 The Show on the PS3 and the Vita. I'll talk about more of this next week, but the connection between the Vita and the PS3 when you're trying to share a game is still unbearably slow. It seems to have sped up a little bit, but it's still like just to a crawl, especially if your PS3 can't connect to Wi-Fi, which mine often can't. But yeah, it's a great game. I highly recommend it if you're a baseball fan, but you probably have already picked it up. I absolutely love this game. I'll keep playing this franchise forever. And yeah, sorry I talked about it so long, but you're going to get more of it next week when I talk about the PS3 version. So definitely tune in for that.
Are they really that different where you really need to talk about
Actually, yeah, they're drastically different, and it's more of a hardware thing, right? Where the PS3 has, significantly more substantial power reserve and processing power and all that kind of stuff, so they can give you more things to listen and to see, and the way that the game is presented in broadcast style and all that kind of stuff is drastically different. But the game as a core is essentially the same thing. They just give you more modes to play. It's funny, on the PS3 version, there's an optional... So you have to install the game, it's 5 gigabytes, but there's an optional big game file install, which is 10 gigabytes if you want to decrease the load times. And I tried it without, and the load times were just astounding. I mean, to get into a game in the demo mode where you're only playing 3 innings took about 3.5 minutes of loading. Then you install that 10 gigabyte file, and it's down to like under 30 seconds, which is great. So they are very different.
Yay, PlayStation and their load times. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wish that they give you the option to install instead, but the thing is, if you have a PlayStation, you basically are forced to do it either way. Even if you had the choice, you'd be crazy not to take that choice. Mm-hmm. Because the load times are so long. And even when you do load the game, they're still really friggin' long most of the time. I don't know why Xbox doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Well, it's the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray mechanism that they used with the PlayStation was an early mech, and it's only like a double speed. Where the DVD mech on the 360 is a heck of a lot faster. So it might not be able to hold as much data, but it can get to that data a heck of a lot quicker than the Blu-ray drive can.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've actually never installed a game on my hard drive on the 360. More so because I never had the space until recently with this new hard drive.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, there you go. MLB The Show Vita version. Check it out if you're a baseball fan. All right, moving on. Let's get into our news. First up, we talked about Square-Enix having some issues with the whole... what Lara Croft selling 3.4 million copies, and it was a failure, an abject failure, according to them. Which is just like, how is that even a thing? How does that make sense? Well, there's some details released for their restructuring plan, and they show kind of just how much they lost. Square-Enix bases all of their projected game sales off of game quality and Metacritic scores, so there's a bit of a problem there. We'll get more into some Metacritic stuff in the future. Forecasts are based on the 80 to 90% of the total sales potential for each title. So they look at, well, we could probably sell 5 million of these, so we project that this game will sell 4.9 9 million. It's like, okay, well, if you could only sell 5 million, you really think that only 100,000 people are not going to pick it up? A little bit flawed there. They're
not really leaving themselves a lot of breathing room, are they?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They believe that their revenue model is outdated.
Really?
It's like, really? Charging for a game on the iPad that should be $5, but trying to get $20 out of people on an iPad is just unbelievable. You would sell, you would make more money. You'd sell more copies, but you'd make more money. Whatever. They lost more than 2 billion yen from their Japanese studios. They've recently launched a new division in the US to develop some casual games for phones, but then it didn't do so well, so they closed it down. They're expecting a 1 billion yen loss as a result of that closure. Basically,
it gets worse though.
Yeah, it does. The total losses resulting from loss on disposal of content, whatever that means, is 4 billion yen. They have another loss of 3.5 billion yen expected from the loss on evaluation of content. Don't really know what that means either, but that's a lot of yen. And
it's like they're spending so much money trying to figure out where their money's going that they're losing money in that endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be making some downward revisions to their prospective yields for every game title to overhaul their business models, which is a lot of speak for. We're going to make less stuff because we know that our expectations are a lot less than what they should be. They're expecting a 2 billion yen loss from Japan, a 1.5 billion loss from Europe and North America. They're restructuring right now. They expect another 2 billion yen loss. So in total, they're thinking that because of all the stuff they're going through, they're going to lose 10 billion yen. So let me convert 10 billion yen to USD. I'll just type that into Google. And what is that?
$100 million?
Yeah, $101 million US loss because of just not running their business very well. So yeah, they're in a little bit of an issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you even say about this, right? I mean, and I've been saying, like, when Tom and I were doing the bonus stage on the radio 2 years ago, we were saying, man, it's really shitty to see this company that, embodied so much of what was great about gaming in the 90s and in the early aughts just completely fall from grace with flop after flop after flop. Games that weren't necessarily technically bad, they just weren't interesting, or they were just, not catered to an audience that was going to spend money on them. And their entire company, or not, I shouldn't say the entire company, that's a bit of a generalization, but a lot of the upper management in that company is just way too old, I think, for this industry and the way it's evolved, Do
you want to know how stupid Square-Enix is?
Yes, I do.
There was an article that just came out today that the Japanese voiceover pack that they're releasing for the PC version of Tomb Raider. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much they're charging just for the Japanese voiceover pack?
The fact that they're charging for it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, they're charging $30 to get the Japanese voices.
What? That's half the price of the game.
No, it's more than half, because in Japan the game costs about $80 because games are more expensive in Japan.
My God!
Like, how is that a thing? I don't. Like,
I've never heard of that before.
Square-Enix, why do I hate you yet love you so much?
If
why
it was 99 cents, that would be too much. You know?
Like, if you release a game in Japan that doesn't have Japanese voices and people complain and you want to give them Japanese voices, don't charge them $30 for it. Like, that's just going to make people more angry.
That would be like if when the Mass Effect extended ending came out, if BioWare charged $20 to see it. Yeah, exactly. Imagine how well that would have went over.
Yeah,
I remember when we were talking about, was it E3 last year we were talking about, and they had the CEO, or the creative head of Final Fantasy come out on stage, and the guy was like 89 years old, and you're like, I wonder why the game hasn't been good in the last decade and a half.
Yeah, wasn't it that was the PlayStation 4 launch, wasn't it?
I think it might have been that event, because it seems more recent than E3. But like, this guy comes out on the stage, he needs walker. Like a walker.
Yeah, he was on a motorized rabbit coming to the stage.
Hooked into a blood thinner and an oxygen tank, right? And he's able to essentially say the last sentence of his life and then leave the stage, and he probably died a few minutes later. And I wonder why the game sucks.
And his son is saying in the chat room, his statement was, please be excited for E3. It's like, what? Really? Oh, I don't know. Anyway.
That's what you come out to say. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's good.
You're going to announce something.
Launch.
You're going to announce something. You're going to announce something. No,
you're excited for E3.
You're playing the same video that you showed us already.
I don't like, if you're Sony, why would you have to, like, Sony has to ask these people, hey, what are you going to say on stage when you get up there, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not just going to go up there and let them say whatever they want. And you get the creative head of Final Fantasy, one of the most loved franchise of all time in gaming, and they let him go up there and say, watch for us at E3. Like, Sony must have been like, oh yeah, that was a great speech. I love that one. Yeah, like, what the hell, guys?
I'm glad you take ridiculous. 10 minutes that probably cost us $1 million because of our production costs.
Yeah, the thing is, like, that guy had to fly in from Japan for 35 seconds on stage, and then he was back in Japan in 12 hours. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Oh, it's so bizarre.
Maybe
so bizarre.
I wonder how much that plane trip cost, $1 billion yen or something, like, Christ.
Oh, yeah, that's why they lost a lot of their money, was all the flights to the US to give a 30-second statement and then flying back.
It boggles the mind. And neither of us ever pretend to be savvy business people, right? I mean, we're coming from the position of the consumer. It's very easy for us to look at things and say, that's stupid, don't make me pay for that, and as much as we understand capitalism and all that kind of stuff, which is fantastic, people should be able to charge for their art. It seems like it's just the most basic, common sense thing to not do what they've done for the last decade. I mean, I don't want to say that I could run that company better, but I think I could run that company better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of tired of talking about Square-Enix all the time because I don't say anything good about them.
It gets us off bashing Sony, though.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. So bizarre. All right, moving on. Let's get into our next story that we want to chat about.
Bash something else.
Yeah, and an article came out on Kotaku this week about Metacritic and how review scores hurt video games. And I don't know, I thought maybe, or Jeff thought, he put it in the show notes, he thought maybe we could chat a little bit about what our thoughts are on Metacritic and kind of what this article is about. It basically covers some games. For example, Obsidian, Bethesda promised Obsidian a bonus if one of their games, Fallout New Vegas, averaged an 85 on Metacritic. It got an 84 on the PC and Xbox, and an 82 on the PlayStation 3. So they didn't get the bonus because of a few points, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about it. But yeah, a lot of people are saying that it's a huge issue. We just talked about Square-Enix basing kind of the projected sales based on Metacritic scores for previous games. So I don't know, Jeff, what are your thoughts? Do reviews hurt video games?
Obviously in this case it did, but the thing is, the game shipped with bugs, and I think
it was a steaming pile. Like, it wasn't even playable when it first came out.
Yeah, I had this game on launch, and luckily I didn't experience.
What did you play it on? 360?
I played on 360, which I believe is the buggiest version of the build.
Oh, really? I thought it was a PlayStation 3 one, because
Oh, really? I didn't know.
I had a couple bugs that basically destroyed my save game, essentially.
Oh, that's no good. I got really lucky. I know that for sure. I only had a few where, like, I got stuck inside the door of a place, so I got stuck in the middle of an autosave, so it didn't actually register. Like, yeah, I guess you have to be in the game space. You have to be outside the door for the autosave to register, and I was actually stuck inside the door. So I could see everything. I could move, but I couldn't move out of the door. Anyway, I got really lucky. But I think as a reviewer, and I mean, you can definitely speak to this, if a game ships with bugs, regardless of whether or not they fix them or not, I believe that our job is to take that into consideration and say, like, listen, this game is really, really great, or whatever, but at the beginning, these bugs damn near killed it for me, and we're not really telling people on this show to buy this game, save for a few like BioShock or whatever else we've like really, really loved. Because I don't want to spend anybody's money for them. You know, they have to make their own decision. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, like, I think it's our job to tell the viewers, hey, listen, this is a really fun game, but you might hate it because there are these bugs that significantly reduced how much fun I had from it. Right. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of doing the review thing for 8-9 years, either through running websites or doing podcasts. I mean, I've been podcasting since like 2004, 2005, and I've developed a rapport with my listeners. So people know that have been listening to me for a long time. They know when I say that I like a game, and if they've played that game, and if their feelings kind of mesh with what I say, they know that if I say you're going to enjoy this game, they're going to enjoy it. And it's great to have that kind of relationship with my listeners. Like I get a lot of thanks emails like, you know what, I didn't think I'd like it. I listened to your review. I've liked other games you've recommended. You said go pick it up. I did, and I loved it, and I just wanted to thank you for it. And so my reviews, I'm not paid for them. This is a hobby for me. I help people make smart buying decisions, especially on like the Touch of Gaming show that I do. There's 1,000 games released every second. Like it's impossible to keep up with everything that comes on the platform. So we review a bunch of games. We say, stay away from this, buy this. That is not a detriment to the industry. And I guess what people are saying is that Metacritic is a detriment because Metacritic, the company, is looking at reviews, even if they don't have a specific numerical number on them, saying that this is a 75%, and they give it a percentage. So if a website does like a buy or don't buy, if they have a 1 to 4 stars, if they have if they do the percentage thing, they take all of those reviews and they give it a score from 0% to 100%. So 1UP in the back in the day used to do A, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, D, F. And an A wasn't necessarily 100%. So Metacritic would apply a score to it. And I remember on some of the old 1UP Yours podcasts, people were pissed off about it. It's like, I didn't give it a 93%. I gave it an A, and an A is an A is an A. But I guess that's why people are upset a little bit at Metacritic, just because they are taking all these reviews and mashing it together. And I don't know, like if I'm looking at a game that I don't know too much about and haven't read a lot about, I'll look at Metacritic just to get an idea of what kind of the general view of what this game is. And if I buy it, based on that, that's my own decision. And if I don't like it, that's my own fault. But then I can choose to look more into it or not.
For sure.
But sorry, I just want one other thing to add. Like the whole game publishers basically structuring their bonuses around Metacritic is a little bit of a flawed thing, but it's no more flawed than what the system used to be. Is if this game doesn't get a 90% on IGN, you're not getting your bonus, which was probably even more flawed because those developers are more inclined to treat that website better, to give them early access, to give them review code, to give them screenshots, to give them access to the developers, because they want that game to get a 90% on IGN. And not that I'm saying that IGN is flawed or crooked, but if your review is based off of one data point, you're more inclined to want to treat that one data point a little bit better than every other Joe site out there. So yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not inherently flawed, but your act of basing bonuses and other things around that score is definitely flawed.
I totally agree with most of what you said. I think the way that Metacritic kind of gets away with it is that they in no way say that, hey, listen, just look at this number and that'll tell you whether or not this game is good or not, which, you know, is a bit of a cop-out, but it's the reality. They don't say anywhere that, like, hey, listen, this is the God's honest truth. If this game gets a 90 or higher, you know that it's a good place to spend your money. I think it's a pretty interesting barometer of other reviews as an aggregate. I think that the trouble is, like you said, if companies, publishers, or whatever are basing their bonus structure on how Metacritic is essentially tallied and all that kind of stuff, that seems to be a bit unfair and unbalanced. I'm not a big fan of the bonus structure in any real environment to begin with, because it just kind of sounds weird to me. Like a lot of times you don't really understand why you're getting it, and then when you don't, you get pissed off at the company, and there's this weird, dichotomy between the two. When it comes to a game, in this case, again, this isn't really confirmed, but apparently there's a source from Obsidian that spoke with Kotaku that said that the bonus was worth about $1 million to Obsidian staff, which would have rounded out to about $14,000 a person, which is not an amount to scoff at. That's a pretty nice sum. And a lot of these people are pretty well paid to begin with, but there are some, I'm sure, that are working for minimum wage, just trying to cut their teeth in the industry. I think the problem with Metacritic for me is that their algorithms of how they total and how they scale how much weight a reviewer has is completely off the books. We're not allowed to look at it. We're not allowed to know about it, other than the fact that, which is kind of what started this whole thing. About 3 weeks ago or so, some guy essentially tried to break down the Metacritic tallying score, and they had to come out and say, like, listen, reviewers aren't judged on the same scale. Some of them get a higher grade, and we take their opinions into consideration more, and some of them get a lower grade, and we don't take their opinions into as much consideration as others.
Right.
That system we don't know anything about. Yeah. And I think that's kind of dangerous and a little bit weird. Adam Sessler, a guy I talk about basically every freaking week on this show, he did a panel at GDC, I believe, 2 years ago, in like 2011, and the panel was called Fuck Metacritic. And he hates the entire system. It's a great video. You can find it on YouTube. It's a great rant. He hates the entire system, but he recognizes it's not going anywhere, and I don't think Metacritic is. I think the real onus, like you were saying, lies in the publishers. If you're going to do a bonus structure, base it on sales. Like say you got to hit this many units of sales, and then the review is taken into consideration less. I mean, reviews still sell games, so in a sense, sales are tied to reviews, but it's a little bit more of a fair system for people who are actually working their asses off making these games than, hey, this game has to be an 85 on Metacritic for you to get your money,
Yeah, but I think that kind of strays a little bit from kind of the point I was trying to make, where Metacritic isn't inherently evil. They're a website, and they exist because people want this. Like, there's been game magazines in the past that have gone reviewless or scoreless on the reviews, and they expect people to read like huge paragraphs to even see if they're going to like the game. And I get that. Like, if I'm going to spend time writing, like I used to write huge reviews on my website, and I would love if people were reading it. That was a great thing. But I would still put a review score at the end. And if someone skipped right to the bottom, I mean, that's their prerogative. And the magazines that went reviewless or scoreless, most of them changed back pretty quickly because of outrage. But the facts for me is, as a consumer, having a place that I can go look at what the general kind of, I don't know, review world looks like for this one particular title, and that's what a lot of people use it for. And I think it's kind of flawed that game companies are using Metacritic to kind of say that you're going to get money at the end of the game production cycle if you do well on this one site. I think that's flawed. That isn't a fault of Metacritic. Metacritic's providing a service that people need. It's the game developers and publishers that are being very evil in this case.
Totally.
So
evil's a strong word, but I know what you're getting at.
Well, I think they are being evil. Like, it's saying that you have to do good enough on this one site that you have no control of. Not you have to make a good game and you have to convince people to buy your product. It's not the best way to I don't know, factor in a bonus into this development thing.
It's definitely a strange incentivization of like, your worth to us what Metacritic says, you know, and that's a very strange thing. I don't know if they're being intentionally evil about it. Obviously, they would love nothing more than to give these people their bonus.
But at the same time, they're a company that is beholden to their shareholders, and their mandate is to make as much money as humanly possible. And giving bonuses means less money for the shareholders. So no, they don't want to give the bonuses. They want to incentivize the game development so that people will try harder. But in reality, they want to pay people as little as they possibly can. Smaller game studios that are publishing their own games, that's a little bit different because you're not dealing with a huge publisher that has shareholders. And
so do you think then? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that that tying it to sales alone would be? I mean, it's certainly not the perfect way, but to me, it sounds a little bit more fair. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Sure. I mean, personally, I don't think I have any right to say either way how someone incentivizes bonuses based on this game development thing. I just think that people villainizing Metacritic is a little bit flawed because, I mean, they provide a service across everything. They do music, they do movies, they do games, they do everything. And the reality exists out there that people want to know how good something is before they go spend their money on it. Games aren't cheap. And if I can look at a website and see that this game that I might buy is getting a 75, I'll probably like it. If it's getting a 40, well, I should probably stay away from it. And I don't need to read a whole bunch of different reviews on a whole bunch of different websites to get that out. I can just look at one place and get a general barometer for I don't know what my feelings toward this game are likely to be. Not to say that it matches up 100%, but it gives me a good guide.
It's weird for me to say this because as we're talking right now, and I just reviewed a game. I know that there are people who want our opinion on games and for some degree base their purchasing decisions on what we say. I actually don't base any of my purchasing decisions on reviews. The reason I like to read reviews is because I like good reviewers will write a very great story inside the review, and I love that. I love the creativity that goes behind writing a review or doing a video review, and they seem to be able to break the game down sometimes in a more pragmatic way than I can. But I've never based a purchasing decision on a game. That said,
You're saying that you've never taken a recommendation and bought a game based on that recommendation.
I have never bought a game based on a recommendation that wasn't somebody who is a friend of mine. I have, however, not bought a game. I have, however, not purchased a game because the reviews are bad. I've looked at reviews and said, wow, this game is just being panned all the time. I've seen a ton of videos. This looks stupid. I'm going to stay away from it. But I've never gone out and said, oh, wow, Dead Space got an amazing review. I got to go buy that game now. Unless a friend came up to me like Tom or you and you were like, Jeff, you're going to love this game. Trust me, because you know how I play video games. You're aware of my play style. That I've done. But I've never read, a Kotaku review and said, yeah, I'm going to go buy this game now.
Really? I find that hard to believe. I really do.
I swear.
And if you listen to what someone says, a friend says, that's essentially a review as well. They've reviewed it in a sentence.
Yeah, but in that case, that person has intimate knowledge of the games I play and how I play them and my mindset about video games and what I find fun. A guy I just read on the internet isn't going to know that. They're trying to I don't know, maybe set like a baseline standard of, I don't really know how you play video games, but I'm going to kind of just lay it all out there in this surface and you kind of pick through it and see what you like. I've never bought a game based on a internet review, but I have bought games based on people coming up to me and saying, Jeff, you're going to play this game, you're going to love it, definitely go buy it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I find it hard to believe, but that's what you're saying. So I have to take your word for it, Jeff. It's just if you're reading reviews and you might not make a decision right away, but you might end up picking a game later because you've gotten some good feelings about a game. You've learned something by reading the experience that someone's put to page.
Okay, I think that's fair. Then maybe I will adjust and say, I've never knowingly, maybe it was like a subconscious thing where, after a few weeks of it ruminating, I'm like, I think I'm going to go pick up this game now. That may have happened. I'm probably not aware of it.
So just I guess explain to me how do you make your buying decisions then? Like,
essentially,
do you live in a vacuum and you say this box art looks cool and I pick it up based on the box art? Like,
that's actually how I used to buy movies and books. I would look at it, like, oh, that cover looks awesome. I bet it's a good movie. But when it comes to games, I pay attention to the marketing a ton. Dev diaries, and when it comes to previews and stuff like that, those things really interest me because they are significantly less bias in, nobody really has an opinion. They're just like, this is the buzz. I kind of buy games on buzz and on the track record of the company.
Did you just say that marketing is less biased than a review?
I did say that, yeah.
Oh my God. What are you saying? That makes absolutely no sense. Marketing exists solely to make you buy their game. A review is someone explaining their ideas about their experience. Like a reviewer doesn't get any kickback for you buying a game based on you reading their review. So they're less biased.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've beaten the point to a bloody pulp, but I guess it doesn't matter. For me, I just don't see that Metacritic is evil. I don't see that Metacritic is a terrible place. I agree with that. It's a service that exists because there's a need. People want to know how good stuff is, and people don't have the not. Some people do. Game reviewers do. They have friends that have played every game that is coming out. A lot of people don't have friends that have played every single game that's come out, and it's a good place to get a general barometer. I've read reviews of a game that I wasn't interested in, and I've picked up the game based on reading the review because they painted a picture of what this game was, and it's like, holy crap, I would enjoy that. It's not that the reviewer basically reach through the screen, grab my credit card, and place the order for me. I'm learning about the game by reading the review, and I'm more likely to listen to reviews that I read than marketing stuff because I've been burned by marketing before, way more than I have from a bad review online.
I bet everybody listening to the show has been burned. I certainly have. Anyway,
so yeah, like Adam Sussler coming out and saying F Metacritic is just like, well, sure, but they exist because people want to know, and I get the journalistic thing about reviews, and I don't want to put a score on my review because people aren't going to read my review. Well, sure, I get that, but maybe you should be writing novels if you want people just to read your stuff. Like, game reviews are there for to give people buying decisions, and review numbers are a very easy way. Like they're the Cole's Notes version of game reviews. You look at the score, you know what you kind of know if you're going to like the game based on other reviews you may have read of this person. If they say that they like, if you're a turn-based strategy game player and you're reading reviews from another big turn-based strategy game player and they say this new turn-based strategy game is good, you should trust them because you've played other games that they've liked, right? Yeah,
trust is definitely a big thing. I think you touched on it, earlier on in this discussion about how when it comes to like the iOS podcast, you have this certain level of trust and familiarity with the audience, right? Where you can kind of talk to certain segments of it and say, listen, if you enjoy this type of game, you're really going to like this one and it's worth your 99 cents or whatever. I definitely agree with that. But, I don't really have a personal relationship with any said reviewer, right? Even if Adam Sussler, who I adore, came out and reviewed whatever game as a 5 out of 5, I wouldn't really take it to heart because he doesn't know me and how I play games. And even though he says, if you like this style of game, I've never, been in contact with him. So it seems like it's a loose kind of, I think what I was trying to say was, that when it comes to marketing, I pay attention to the buzz. I think previews in written form on gaming websites aren't really based in bias. Marketing is certainly based in bias because nobody's going to put together a piece of Halo 4, this game sucks. That's never going to be on a poster or, on the review quips on the box of the game. But when it comes to just previews of games where they show you clips and they just talk about how the game's being made and what it involves, that kind of stuff I pay attention to a little bit more. Sure. And I base my kind of buying decisions on those factors.
But you gotta think about previews as well.
Certainly some bias in them.
Oh, there's a lot of bias, and
Yeah.
not the reviewer themselves or the person that's penning the article, but the game companies that are giving people access to games are giving you a very small slice of the game. Like look at Alien Colonial Marines. Like this game came out and is just like trash, but yet all the previews that I read about this game were very positive. They're like, this game is great. This action is good. Playing as this character is fun, and then the full game comes out and it's just this like crazy dog's breakfast of garbage. Because it was basically engineered that way. They gave them just vertical slices of a game or something. It's dirty. Like publishers, they try to trick people out of their money. I mean, they're corporations and they exist solely to extract as much money out of the industry as they can, because that is what they legally have to do by being a corporation.
Yeah, and that's actually a great example of what we're talking about with, how the Metacritic thing, that was actually a perfect barometer of how that game was being reviewed and how it actually played, because people were so brutally honest about how much it sucked. And it's a great it's kind of a great little case study about how the difference between, what you see in a preview and what you get as a final product are two completely different things. I think it was something like nearly all pieces of marketing and trailers weren't even in the final product of the game.
Yep.
Like a lot of stuff you see in those trailers doesn't even appear. And it was like, well, we were sold a completely different experience, and this one we paid for is garbage. It's a great thing to talk about. We're obviously having a pretty good conversation about it right now. It's a weird thing, but I think to go back to the original point, which we both agreed on, it's definitely unfair that publishers are basing their bonus structure off of something that's completely, maybe not completely, because the developers are making the game, it's in their control, but it's just what somebody's going to think about it, which is such a subjective, almost nonsense thing sometimes. It's totally out of their control, right? And
do you know why they do that? Other than the fact that they want to screw people out of the money? It's cheaper to do that because someone else is doing all the heavy lifting. They don't have to do any metrics themselves because there is a company that is making all the metrics for them. Like it's dirty. Like business is dirty. And
it is.
And that's just the way of the world. But anyway, as you said, we've beaten this into the ground enough. Let's
let us know what you think, though. Like if you have an opinion on this. Not you, Lloyd, but the audience. Send us an email. What the hell is our email?
VGPodcasts@gmail.com.
I haven't actually done that line in a while. I forgot what our email is.
One thing to note is if you ever hear of a game company not providing review copies to big gaming websites or publications, stay far away from the game. Run the other direction. Do not buy into the hype. They do that for a reason, because they don't want the bad reviews in the first week of the game being out. It
happens quite often in the film industry, where they're like, oh, we don't want people to review our movie early. We are pretty much aware that it's a piece of trash, so we're trying to get as much money opening weekend as we can. Ride this thing out.
Exactly. That's like not to bring it up again, but Aliens Colonial Marines, they weren't sent out. Review copies weren't sent out. The reviews came late. The game is horrible. They announced a Wii U version. Well, they're not shipping the Wii U version now. It's like, gee, I wonder why. The game sucks. No one's gonna buy it, so they've canceled that one. Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, moving on. Let's get into our next story, and this is another delay. It's not a cancellation, I guess. It's a delay, and that is Minecraft Xbox 360, the retail version, the disc of the game that you can go and buy for your Spacebucks, your Microsoft Spacebucks. It's being delayed till what is it, April 30th? No, it was supposed to launch on April 30th, but it's coming out in June.
Until about June. Yeah,
June 4th is what they're saying. So I don't know. I guess that's kind of big news, but the reason why they're delaying it is so it can include all the latest content for the game.
Yeah, so
which makes sense.
I think I talked about it last week, but the end DLC, it's not really DLC because you don't actually have to download it. It's just presented as an update. So the end update to the game came out, and I guess they didn't include it in the build of the retail version and can't get that out and shipped for the 30th. I don't know how long it takes to print discs, but I'm assuming the amount of discs they're going to be printing, it's probably going to take some time. When the game came out, it sold like 6 million units, which is ridiculous. 6 million digital units. I believe it's still the most purchased game on Xbox Live. So if you're waiting, if you don't have the internet, I don't know how the hell you're listening to this, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for Minecraft on the 360. It's definitely worth the wait, though, if you have to wait. So
yeah, exactly. Cool. Again, for Minecraft, if it's a game that you kind of need to play co-op, so if you're buying the disc version because you don't have the internet, you're playing it wrong. I guess you could do local co-op, so that's fine.
Actually, Carly and I are playing split screen today. This is a 32-inch TV right here, and it's pretty hard to make out. We're sitting pretty close. You got to play it on a big TV for you to actually get the kind of value out of it. Yeah. It's a great game to play by yourself, too. It's a great chill-out game, but it's certainly more fun with friends. I attest to that.
You saying the split screen is terrible on a 32-inch just makes me think back to playing 4-player Mario Kart 64 on my N64 on like a 14-inch color television or something. Like, it's just this tiny little box, and it's just like, how was that fun? But it was so much fun.
Yeah, I think
it's so bizarre.
I don't know if developers took that into consideration, the screens they'd be playing on, but what kind of a game today is actually made to be split screen, right? I mean, with the internet on every console, nobody gives a shit about that, so we don't really care about making it look good. So when it's split screen, it actually looks kind of bad. Back in the day, the only way to play with your friends is to get them all on a couch. So, and
you think, like, it was all SD, so it's like 540 lines, and you're splitting it 4 ways. Like, it's just so terrible. How did games look good back then? But it's, I don't know, it did. Rose-colored glasses. Yeah, that's all there was, I guess, is what it was. We didn't have 1080p televisions, so. No. Anyway, moving on. Next up, Crytek, the CEO, I can't ever pronounce it.
Servat-Yurli, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. He's basically saying that graphics make up 60% of a game. And that's his statement. So, Jeff, what do you think?
It's a little bit more in depth than that, but it's essentially, he says, I'll quote from the article, "People say that graphics don't matter, but play Crysis and tell me they don't matter. It's always been about graphics driving gameplay." And then he goes on to say, "Graphics, whether it's lighting or shadows, puts you into a different emotional context and drives the immersion. And immersion is effectively the number one thing we can use to help you buy into the world." It's not a flawed statement, but it's, it sounds really pretentious. They're like, hey, we're Crytek. Come and, essentially get a boner to our graphics. Like, that's what they're saying. We're the best, and we're going to continue to be the best and all that kind of stuff. I can't disagree with him, but I can disagree with how firmly he says it. 60%. First of all, I don't know how the hell you quantify that. Like it's
more than half. Let's pick a number more than half. 60%.
It's ridiculous, right? Like, the bonus stage is 60% awesome on a scale of 100% of its awesome potential. It's a weird thing to say. It's certainly something that puts you into an environment, but you play a game like Journey, and which is, if you want to compare the graphics, they're similarly on point in the same kind of area, but they just look totally different. I'd get pulled into a Journey world way before I get pulled into a Crysis world, I'll get pulled into a world of Fez way before I get pulled into the world of Call of Duty, regardless of how uncanny valley or, stunning the graphics are. But the graphics do mean quite a bit. It's certainly the first thing you notice, really, when you play a game is, wow, these graphics are X,
And it's always been that way. Like, there was always the, like, back in, like, the Super Nintendo and N64, there'd always be the articles that would come out in game magazines about game publishers doctoring up screenshots for the back of the box, making them look better than they really are, or having screenshots of the CG was a big thing for a while. People always have always been that way. It's like, you want the latest and greatest looking game, but that's not the sole thing that makes me buy a game. Like, I wouldn't be into retro games right now if that was the case. I wouldn't be playing Guacamelee if graphics really only mattered, because it doesn't look photorealistic. It's stylized, and it's stylized for a reason.
Yeah, I think that the term graphics, though, is, in this way slanted towards your game has to look photoreal.
Yep.
It has to, present you with the most crystal clear water you've ever seen and great lighting textures. When in my brain, and I think in most of our brains, graphics just mean how the game is presented to you, right? Like the art style and direction.
Yeah, no, he's definitely talking about photorealism. And
absolutely.
Again, not to bring the evil corporation or evil companies into it, but they make an engine that they sell to other developers. So of course they're going to come out and say, yeah, graphics mean everything. You're like, people will look at your game, and if it looks like crap, they won't buy it. Use us. We'll make your game sell. And I mean, if I look at screenshots, if it's a pretty looking screenshot or it looks really awesome, like some of the first shots of Tomb Raider, for example, I was like, wow, this world looks really interesting. I was more interested in looking more into the game. That was kind of the hook that got me. Yeah, I don't know. I like graphics, but I won't buy a game that looks pretty and it sucks, and I won't avoid a game that doesn't look good because it might be fun.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I think, like we all did, I used to gauge how good I thought a game was based on its graphics. I'm like, oh, Mario 64 is great. The graphics are amazing, and it's way better than X game because its graphics can compete.
That's such a child way of having arguments. It's like
right?
It's like a school, like basically having recess and arguing over how much better a game is because it looks better.
Before I knew anything about hockey, when I was a fan, when I was a kid, when I would argue with my brother about who was a better team, it would all be about which logo was the best. I'd be like, oh man, I like this Colorado Avalanche. I ended up falling in love with that team because I loved their logo so much.
Wow. You've always been a design geek, Jeff.
I like the way things look, but it's a stupid way to evaluate things. Obviously, you have to evaluate that portion of it at some point, but to say Crysis 3 is a great game because its graphics are good is just a ridiculous argument, but which I think he might even be trying to make in that statement, which is bizarre to me. But again, like you said, that guy is in the business of selling that engine to other companies, so
yeah.
Weird way to go about it.
All right, well let's move on. This was an interesting article, and a I guess a teaser trailer that Sega sent out, and it basically they're saying that Castle of Illusion, a remake, is probably most likely coming. They released a teaser trailer for a Disney game. The video was tagged with Disney, so it looks like a remake of the Sega Genesis Castle of Illusion, one of the best platformers of all time, right up there with DuckTales. That's getting a remake, is coming. They released a teaser trailer, which is a black and white video.
Speaking of like graphics to kind of lure you in, sets a great little tone with this one.
Yeah, it totally does. They have some of the enemies that you can tell from if you played Castle Illusion, like the little wind up soldiers were in there. Things with like there was an apple rolling across the screen, which is something that you used in the game. A bunch of other design nods, but they didn't really say that yes, it's Castle of Illusion, but pretty much we know that it's coming, and the teaser trailer ends with summer 2013. So it looks like if this is in fact Castle of Illusion, it will be coming very, very soon. And that's a great thing because this is an awesome game. I loved playing this game on my Genesis. It was it was one of my favorite platformers of all time. So I'll be really happy to play this one again.
Yeah, I used to when it comes to no, that's fine.
not to jump over you and interrupt you.
No,
Steven in the chat room said it said copyright 1990 and 2013 Disney. Yeah, I missed that, but yeah, obviously that's what it is. That's what it is as well. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it's great. I can't wait to play this one.
When it comes to movies that are remade, I hate it, because it's more than half of the movies that come out these days are remakes, and that bugs the hell out of me, that we can't have any original IPs. For some reason, when it comes to games that are remade, you just get like frothing at the mouth to play the new DuckTales. I'm like, God, for some reason, I'm like, I really want to play a game that's 20 years old now remade. It's a weird thing, because I hate remade movies so much. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, I'm all in.
Sure. I mean, I guess it's something to do with like when movies were made way back in the day. They were great resolution. Like film has almost unlimited resolution. It's great. It's not like video games way back in the day had like they were terrible. 320 by 200 stretched up to your SD screen. Playing those games on newer equipment would make it look a lot better. Where film not necessarily will look better, just with better special effects and other things like that. So I get what you're saying. I feel the same way, which is I guess really kind of odd.
Definitely. When the Bionic Commando remake came out, Bionic Commando Rearmed on the Xbox Live Arcade, That was one that just completely blew me away. I think maybe this is the catch of that or the caveat of this whole thing is that when it comes to games being remade, developers who can take it and keep that same nostalgia and bring that forward, but update everything to make it essentially playable in this day and age, I think that is a real skill that should be valued extremely in the coming years. In film, it takes, in my eye, no or little to no effort to just rewrite a script and refilm it and then put it out there really quickly and hope it makes a profit. There's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Want to move on?
Yes, I do, because I love this story.
Okay, so we talked about this last episode about the Microsoft employee that was saying, like, why don't you just deal with it? Our console's going to be, or he didn't say his console was going to be always on, but I don't get the problem with an always on thing. And that was in, I guess, reference to kind of the people blowing up about the rumors of the new Xbox being always online and always there. So
you paraphrase that in the nicest way, his tweets, by the way. Yeah. He was a real dick.
Yeah, he was being like a condescending, a jerk. Like, sorry, I don't get the drama around having an always on console. Every device now is always on. That's a world we live in. # deal with it.
We should all tweet him now, and well, I guess
his account's protected now, so you can't even see his tweets.
Get fired. # deal with it.
Someone said, well, what if you live in a rural area with spotty internet? And his response is, why on earth would I live there? ? Like, he's just a bit of a jerk. But apparently he's no longer with Microsoft. So pretty much as soon as this story blew up, the next day he was gone. So they haven't said whether he was fired or whether he stepped down because he was going to get fired. But he probably was fired if you look at how quick this whole thing moved.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to post a link to an article that had a bunch of really funny quick memes made with his I guess his avatar from Twitter. And one of them is, it was a joke that will always be online. Or out of touch, but always on.
That one's my favorite.
Yeah. I want my game console to be playable online. Said no one ever. To only be playable online. Said no one ever. So, yeah, this is a really weird thing that happened. I mean, that shows how the internet is pretty damn powerful and can pretty much change your life overnight if you're a guy named Adam Orth.
I don't want to lose any more viewers by talking about baseball, but when you guys look at this article and you look at this meme picture that's been kind of nicely characterized, to me, the guy looks almost identical to Steve Bartman, the guy who caught the ball that essentially ended up, well, it's hard to see in the future, but that everybody thinks cost the Cubs the World Series, that stole it right out of Moises Alou's hand. He looks so similar to that guy, and it's funny because in this situation, he's turned into a complete, like, he's just been ostracized, essentially, in one day, the entire or nearly the entire gaming community just hates him.
Yep.
And it's just like this picture so perfectly encapsulates what I'm thinking he looks like right now. Just like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah, he looks pretty sweaty in this image. He looks like just some sweaty, nervous guy. So that could be what he looks like.
Steven in the chat room. Hi, I'm Jeff. How can I turn this into a baseball reference? You know what? That is actually how I think about everything.
It all revolves around baseball. All right, moving on. Let's get into some gaming news. This is actually really big. A game was announced this week through a cover of Game Informer magazine, and that is Batman Arkham Origins, so a sequel to the Batman Arkham games that have been coming out. It's coming out on October 25th. It's going to be coming out on Wii U, PlayStation 3, 360, and PC on the 25th. So that's pretty awesome. What do you think of kind of a prequel game set? I guess a prequel version of the Arkham games.
Personally, I mean, I loved Arkham Asylum. Thought it was a perfect game, or about as perfect as you can get. Arkham City, I felt was a little bit too challenging, and I felt like there was just way too much to learn, and I really didn't enjoy it. I never ended up beating it. But I don't think it's a bad game because of that. Just because I had a rough time, I don't think it's a bad game. I know that it's a very, very solid game, worthy of some of the highest regard which it got. So I'm happy to see that they're still producing them, because I think this team is extremely talented and should be putting their efforts to what may or may not be maybe the best licensed game ever. I don't even like if I tried to think about what was a better licensed game, I don't think I can come up with anything.
And even more so, it's probably the best superhero game that's ever been made. Except for maybe the first Spider-Man game that was on the PlayStation, where you ever played that. It was so good. I can't remember the actual title for it, but it was really the first game where you actually felt like you were the superhero that you were playing. It was so good.
I remember Spider-Man 2, which was an amazing game as well too. It had some problems with combat and just targeting camera, but certainly, I don't think I'll play it just because I had such a bad experience with the other one. But I know that there are fans that are just, wanting it so bad. So it's definitely glad for them that they're going to be getting that game.
Exactly.
I can't imagine that it's going to be anything but better than the last one.
Yeah. It's going to be probably even better. They're going to keep iterating on this until they make a perfect game. And it's
track
really
record of this team is unbelievable.
Exactly.
And I'd want them to work on another game because I can't imagine how great it would be. If they had like an original IP or something, you'd turn it into another franchise. But this is already a franchise that is just making bank every second.
Yeah, exactly. And also announced at the same time was the announcement of a sequel prequel, I guess. And that is Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, which will be coming out around the same time. Yet this is a game for not for consoles. This is going to be a mobile game. It's going to be on the 3DS and the Vita. It's going to be a 2.5D Metroidvania game. I've already talked about that earlier. So you learn abilities which allow you to get to different areas to progress with the game. But probably most exciting about this is that it's being developed by Armature, who is made up of ex developers that worked on Metroid Prime. So everything they've touched has been gold. So I can only think that this game is going to be amazingly kick-ass. I don't know if I'm going to be picking it up on the 3DS or Vita. I just know I will be buying it on the 25th when it comes out. It's going to sell. Yeah. Just like a ridiculous amount. I saw some of the screenshots that were in Game Informer that were posted online, and it looks pretty beautiful. Like it looks like a 2.5D, 3D, yet 2D game. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be an expensive month in October.
Yeah, as it always is, when it starts in October and then moves on into late November. That's an expensive 6-7 week stretch there where, your wife is going to hate you, Lloyd. I hope you're prepared for that.
Well, she already hates me most of the time, so it's no sweat off my back.
Like essentially, my entire year, as is most people's, is saving up money for that 6 week stretch between October and halfway through November before the Christmas rush hits.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
That's when my pre-orders get to be less the $5 hold this copy of the game, and here's $50. I won't have enough money to buy all the games when they come out, so just take my $50 now, and I'll just try to forget about the interest I'm losing on that money.
I remember getting calls from EB Games last year, and I'm like, I pre-ordered that? I'm like, I don't have any money. Like, I had to pass up on Far Cry, when it came out. I didn't even realize it had come out. We were doing the show at the time, and I had no idea it had come out. And they were like, hey, your copy of Far Cry 3's in. I was like, oh, man. Yep. I'll come. I can't get it. I'm sorry, I don't have any money. And they're like, okay, we'll put it towards something else. And I'm like, shit. It's
that's hilarious.
I can't even remember the games I've pre-ordered because there's so many. Those damn publishers, man.
Yeah. End of year, that's where they make their money. That's where they want your money. Moving on, let's get into a couple of quick items. The first is IGN has sold off another one of its assets. IGN, or I guess the parent company, shut down 1UP. We talked about that last week, or the week before. There was also some I don't know. No one really knew what was happening with IGN's Pro Gaming League, the IPL or whatever it is, or I think it's what it is.
I think it's IPL.
Because they had canceled a big tournament that was happening. No one really knew what was happening. Well, I guess the reason why all that stuff was kind of unknown was because they couldn't talk about it because they were in talks to sell their assets. So it was announced this week that Blizzard has purchased IPL from IGN. They bought all the technology and all the assets, and a couple employees that worked with the company are coming over as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they will have all the technology in place to start running their own esports, I don't know, league, which I guess Blizzard already kind of does, but I guess this gives them more stuff that they can do it with. They'll have better tools and better technology that they don't have to develop themselves.
If you're in the Call of Duty community, you probably have noticed this year that Black Ops 2 has this, basically it's an extension of the public playlist where you can go into a separate playlist, and it's called League Play. And there's a big esports agenda inside of Call of Duty right now. And it, came in the form of David Vonderhaar making a bunch of creative decisions about how point structure should work and how the player should be rewarded for playing the objective instead of just being an all-out slayer. And that game and all that stuff kind of came to a culmination last week with the Call of Duty Championships, which offered up a prize of $1 million total. I believe 600,000 to the top team, who would split it 4 ways, and then after taxes, it's around 120 grand or something, probably $100,000 after taxes each. It was a big event. I was watching it on Saturday while I was cooking dinner, Sunday, and there was like 500,000 people watching this live stream of this Call of Duty Championship. So the esports agenda of Activision has been focused like a laser. And the way I see it is they're essentially, I think esports is maybe the most refined way to market to people who aren't already in that world, right? Like, you could do as many commercials as you want, but if you see people playing live the video game that, you're kind of on the fence about, this is a good way to say, hey, listen, this is the way Call of Duty plays, and this is the excitement you're going to feel and the tension you're going to feel. Don't you want to be a part of this? It's a great way of marketing and selling games without really doing so. And they're going to make a ton of money in ad revenue and just, sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. And this acquisition essentially, speaks volumes to that. They're ready to go full bore into esports, which is why I said earlier, if you wanted to buy stock, buy it at Activision, because this definitely shows that they're in the business for the long haul, right? Sure. They wouldn't want to make a game that's going to die out in a few years and then buy this huge amount of technology and assets to do this esports thing if it's not going to plan out for, a long term.
Yeah, and I think even more so than, or even more to the point that you were talking about, where it's a great thing to advertise to other people, to sell games. It's just kind of what people want. I mean, it's fun to get out there and play baseball. It's fun to get out there and play hockey. It's fun to get out there and play football. But it's also a lot of fun to read about it and to also watch stuff on your television about it. And this is kind of the same thing. We love gaming. We love everything to do with the culture. I love chiptunes. I love geek t-shirts. I love science fiction movies. I love all the stuff that kind of is ancillary to my passion in gaming, but also love watching people play games. I love trailers. I love play-alongs. I love all that stuff. And having these competitive tournaments is just like kind of the next step. I mean, I always wanted G4 before it was even G4, when it was ZDTV, because they had gaming content. You never saw gaming content on television. And then when we finally got it up here in Canada, it was G4 TV. I guess it was ZDTV for a little bit, or it was Tech TV for a little bit before it became
14
G4.
hours a day of Leo Laporte telling you how to work your printer.
Exactly. And it was just like for like all of that for the 1 hour where I'd get X-Play and then X-Play replay from like the week before or whatever. Like, I've always wanted to have access to the gaming content. Now, you don't even need television networks. You don't need people to really understand kind of what people want to watch. There is a world that exists outside of mainstream media, and that is like the e-gaming stuff. Like, we broadcast all our live shows on Twitch, and you look at some of the tournaments we're doing for League of Legends and other things, Dota, and there's stupid amounts of people watching it. It's just like, holy crap, it's not just me. There's other people like me out there, and it's kind of an amazing thing. It would be cool to be young, like to be like 14 right now, because you wouldn't have been in a world that didn't have this stuff as part of it, and it's such a change from when I grew up playing video games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and even so for me as well too, right? Where it was a very analog, upbringing in video games. But I think, if there's anybody who's kind of questioning how powerful the esports thing could be, think of it this way. if you're making, having a video game tournament, and it's 500,000 people watching it who are probably already fans and already purchased the game. Those aren't the people that are actually you're selling to. You give away $1 million to people playing video games. Try to find me a news outlet that's not going to carry that story, and then it's going to be in every living room of every mother and parent and whoever out there, and that is extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
If that story gets on CNN and CNN's like, yeah, this guy, this team just won $600,000 playing Call of Duty in a weekend. Game over.
Yeah,
game over, man.
Totally, I agree. It's good, and it just shows that. I mean, people don't just want to play games; they want to be immersed in all sorts of gaming culture. So
yeah,
it makes sense, and I'm glad it exists. I just wish I had more time to watch some of the stuff because it's really fascinating, like the play-by-play stuff.
It's actually really for the Call of Duty championships. Those guys were horrendous.
Okay,
you wouldn't see those guys calling a little league game. That's how bad they were.
Yeah, and I guess all that stuff is changing as well. Like as more people do it starts to get better and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so. We're at the cusp of a new industry opening up where people who they'll go to journalism school to either write for a review, on Kotaku or IGN or whatever, and they're like, I don't really have any interest in mainstream news. I want to cover video game journalism, or I want to be a broadcaster inside of the video game scene for big events. Yeah. And that's in Japan it's been huge for a long time. With
Korea, it's been a national. They have television channels that are dedicated just.
I believe it's illegal not to be a fan in Korea. They just lock you up. You're like, I don't really like video games. You're taken out back and.
Yikes!
Taken out.
Watch it.
That might be a little offensive. I apologize.
Watch it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, moving on. Let's get into our last story, which is kind of a sad one. Another magazine is shutting down. The print industry is in total decline, especially for kind of niche publications. You're always going to have the kind of the rag publications will always be out there, but some of the niche interest stuff. A magazine that's been around for 19 years. Which is Game Developers Magazine, is now done, or it will be. Its final issue will be July of 2013. So yet another gaming-related magazine that is basically going away. All of their content is still going to be on Gamasutra as it currently is, so they're still doing that. But yeah, if this is a magazine that you read, you will no longer be able to do that because it's not going to exist in the print form anymore.
Mm-hmm. We talked about a long time ago when Nintendo Power had its final issue, which you can actually still find on eBay for like $20. I'm actually just looking at the first issue of Nintendo Power right now, and it's valued at about $100 for an issue, which is actually a pretty fair price given how rare that issue actually is. This one's a little bit beat up. But yeah, it's sad to see. And, it's unfortunate that, these magazines don't go to digital, but I guess the sales of digital can't support entire team of writers and designers, and then I don't know what the process is to make a publication digital after that, but sure. It's got to be a little bit expensive as well too. And it's unfortunate that they just go completely out.
And what does digital offer that reading all this stuff on a website doesn't?
Exactly.
Consuming something in that format it kind of just doesn't make sense in this world anymore.
Yeah.
Just like listening to or watching TV shows at Wednesday at 7 p.m. because that was the only time it airs doesn't make sense anymore, because you can PVR it, you can watch it on streaming, you can buy the DVDs. Like, the way that we consume all media has kind of changed a lot in the last 10 years, and I guess niche magazines like this don't really need to exist anymore because we have the internet now, where 19 years ago there was nothing like it that would allow you to get access to this type of content.
Yeah, I hope that the people who are writing for this magazine and working there find other opportunities, other places, because I've picked up a few of these magazines from time to time. There's a talented bunch of people, and I don't think all of them can stick around writing for a website, unfortunately. But
no, it is sad to see people in the industry lose their jobs. But
then you've got maybe the silver lining is that there's so many gaming websites popping up now that are devoted to news that there is opportunities to go and work other places. Whether or not they're paying or not, I think is a completely different argument. But hope for the best for those guys and girls.
Cool. All right, man. I think that's going to about do it. This was an epic long episode.
And we talked for about 45 minutes before we started, though, so I think it's still about an hour 45
That's
at
true.
the end.
That's true. Cool. All right, Jeff, anything to add before we get into the end of the show?
Yeah. So MLB The Show. It's
Oh boy, I'm having connection issues. Oh, your mic might get muted. Oh, it's weird.
Such a convenient time for my mic to go out.
Yeah. Awesome. That was great. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of the Bonus Stage Podcast. Let us know what you think. Head on over to VGPodcasts.com and click contact us there. You can email us directly at VGPodcast@gmail.com. Steven in the chat room says he's revoking your Jeff Award.
That son of a bitch. I didn't realize that Steven was the one who hands out the Jeff Award.
Yeah, because you're Jeff Award. So you're Jeff Award on Twitter.
10 points from Jeff Endor.
Wah.
Harry Potter reference.
All right. Call our voicemail line, area code 505 VG Podcast, which is 505-847-6322. So until next week, take it easy, guys. We'll chat at you in about a week's time.
Yep. See you later.
All right. Take it easy. For real, take it easy. Oh, it helps if the slider, see this little slidey thing? It goes up and down. Helps if it's all the way up, Jeff.
Production value here is at an all-time high.
Pro tip.